County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside the one, the only, Mr. Tyler Keefe. He is our Civic Center TV masterman and our hero here.
Thank you.
For all things public access TV in the greater West Bloomfield area. Tyler, I think people don't really know what you do behind the scenes.
I don't even really know what I do behind the scenes sometimes, Ronnie, to be honest. I just keep going.
He does a lot, is what he's saying. He does a lot. He's working like a crazy man here, trying to make sure that you have access to all the information that you do need to have. Not only, making sure that our rebroadcast gets on, but that the information is cut down into clips so it's easily accessible to people, but also making sure all of the programming gets on as well.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes here, and a lot of people that are working on your regular daily programming here on Civic Center TV and on Lakes FM as well.
So, Tyler, just so you know that we all appreciate you as someone who lives in the area. I am in Kiko Harbor. I say thank you so much for all that you do, as well as Jake. He is our social media guru, but also he has the joint task of trying to book all of our guests, which is a huge, huge task. 5 people each and every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon. A big, big chore that he has and a big responsibility. So we'd like to remind everyone, if you want to be a guest on the Oakland County Megacast, just reach out to us. Let us know. Send us an email. And we'll try to get you on the air, especially business people. We like to hear from business people. How are you surviving? What have you had to do to change your business during this time to try and survive? Because what you did may be able to help that next business. So we like to hear from you, as well as just regular people. I'd like to hear from some parents right now, now that the kids are back in school.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear from some, because it's different for every parent too. In every different district, some parents have kids that are going to be in hybrid learning situations. Some are back in virtual situations. Some people like me just don't mute their phones before a radio show. And then there's others who also are in situations where their kid is entirely in person, and it's a different navigation for each parent in each different situation.
Oh, I do feel for those parents, let me tell you. So, so that's the Oakland County Megacast, Monday through Friday, as I said, 10 a.m. to noon. We bring you live, in-depth interviews with newsmakers and people of interest throughout the greater Oakland County area, as well as the state of Michigan. So anytime, we invite everyone to tune in. And again, if you do miss us, you can catch us on civiccentertv.com at any point in time. Tune in to the radio as well. We're on 89.3 Lakes FM and 88.1 FM The Biff. But let's go ahead and start the show off with bringing you up to date on some of the headlines going on this Thursday morning. Some sad news coming out of yesterday's news conference with the governor. A 2-month-old died from complications related to COVID-19. That's according to the state's top doctor. Circumstances of the child's death were not immediately detailed by the state, but Chief Medical Executive Dr. Jonay Caldoun acknowledged the death of the young infant while noting about 800 kids across the U.S. have been diagnosed with multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children. That's associated with COVID-19. The 2-month-old was the youngest COVID-19 related fatality reported to the state so far, and the only child younger than 1 in Michigan to have died from the virus. As of Wednesday afternoon as well, Michigan added 680 cases and 11 deaths, bringing the state's new total number of cases to roughly 114,000 cases. So some sad news out of the press conference yesterday as well. And I think that is just a reminder to all of the parents, because we are saying that, for so long it's been said, well, kids aren't getting it. And so Dr. J, as the governor calls her, was reminding everyone that kids can get COVID, and while many times they do not suffer severe symptoms, they can be spreaders of COVID-19.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, is that they can spread it asymptomatically, or they can spread it with very little symptoms at all, or non-severe symptoms. And so you got to be more cognizant of that. Anybody can get this virus. It affects everybody differently.
And they are also seeing an outbreak of COVID-19 over in Novi. And the athletics now at Novi High School have been postponed after 5 students at the school tested positive for the virus, prompting classes also to switch to virtual learning for the remainder of this week. All athletic events, including practices, have been postponed until September 20th. Students are also not allowed to use athletic facilities at Novi High School or the middle school for the time being. They are saying that they're not certain at this point in time where the virus started and with what individual. They are doing contact tracing, but I believe the principal is saying he doesn't believe it started at school, but maybe off campus, and then it spread from that standpoint. But these are the repercussions that are happening to the students so that they know, hey, we go back, it's not life as usual. This is what can happen, and one of that being sports is going to be canceled, and you are also going to be remote learning for a couple days.
Yeah, this is unfortunately something that I think is the first of several that we're going to see over the next several months as we continue to battle COVID-19 and kids are back in school. And you can do everything right and still have outbreaks. I think that we're still going to have outbreaks even if everybody does everything right. It's just the nature of this virus. But I wouldn't be surprised to see more high schools and more school districts across the local area and across the state end up having to cancel sporting events and keep kids home from school for several days over the next few months as we continue to battle this.
And here on the Megacast, we've been keeping you up to date on the outbreaks on college campuses. Now it's at Grand Valley State University, and the students have been ordered to hunker down for 2 weeks due to a spike in the cases linked to the Western Michigan campus. There have been more than 600 cases of COVID-19 amongst students since August 23rd. Majority of those students, though, do live off campus. That's according to the Ottawa County health officials. So the stay-in-place order starts today. Students must stick to their on-campus or off-campus residence unless attending classes, exercising, getting food, seeking health care, or working at an essential job. They also cannot return to their home community unless there is an emergency. And Tyler, if these students do not follow the rules, they face the possibility of suspension from Grand Valley.
Yeah, this is one of those situations that Governor Whitmer spoke about yesterday at a press conference. She applauded Grand Valley State University, Ottawa County, as well as Michigan State and Ingham County for taking stricter action with these stay-in-place orders as a result of their outbreaks, and saying to these students that, look, you may not have taken this seriously before the outbreak occurred, but if you don't take it seriously after the outbreak occurs, that's going to be considered even more egregious by the university and by the local community. We're not going to be lenient about it. You could face suspension, or you could even be kicked out if you're being negligent in keeping the community around you safe.
Also on CivicCenterTV.com, the top health official defends how Michigan handled COVID-19 in nursing homes. He said that the residents affected with the deadly coronavirus, contending its performance has been strong compared to other states, and dismissed Republicans' call for facilities that house only COVID-19 patients. Robert Gordon is the director of the State Department of Health and Human Services, said just 2 states, Florida and Massachusetts, tried the approach and have since abandoned it. The majority GOP lawmakers and some Democrats have criticized letting recovering patients stay in or return to homes as long as they are isolated from uninfected residents. Governor Whitmer has really taken the heat on this and their response to COVID-19 in the nursing homes. He's defending the state and how they have handled it. So many different sides to this because they are our most vulnerable population.
Yeah, and this is something that, as you stated in the article, has been action taken by 2 other states, both of which have since abandoned that stance because of the safety issues related to those regular nursing home patients, particularly seniors. And Michigan has not really done much to reverse that that decision that has been pretty well identified as, in hindsight, a bad decision. They're sticking to it. They continue to defend themselves. It's interesting that they do that instead of really falling on their sword, admitting it was a bad decision that they made based on what the scientific evidence and suggestion was at the time, and at the time may have seemed correct, but over time it's not been. People died, and take responsibility for that and make a change. Who knows if that is ever going to happen.
So we have links to those articles and so much more over on civiccentertv.com. You can also find a direct link to the CDC resources, the state of Michigan, and Oakland County, see what's happening here locally as well as our local communities as well. We try to make it easy for you to find all the information that you need to get you started and get you through the day. We have a lot for you coming up on the Thursday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, first on the agenda today, very interesting to me, hacking. Grizz hacks. What is Grizz hacks? I will say when I think of hacking, I think it's a bad thing. But hacking is not a bad thing necessarily, so we'll be heading to Oakland University for that. And then we'll be checking in with the Road Commission. Oh, those orange barrels. Not our friends, but they are still around, and they're not going anywhere for a while. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards. Back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus. Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19. To make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Thank you for tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keefe. You can catch us here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon. If you're wondering where you can watch us, it's pretty much anywhere and everywhere. Catch us on civiccentertv.com, Birmingham area municipal access. If you do have cable, Channel 15 on Comcast and Channel 99 on AT&T. Plus, we are on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, as well as 88.1 FM The Biff. We are also being streamed live on Facebook through the West Bloomfield Township Clerk's Office. So we want to say thank you to them for sharing today's Megacast with all of their friends. Our first guest, much smarter than I am. I will tell you that. I can handle social media. It took me a while to figure out Snapchat, but I'm down with Snapchat now. But when it comes to so many other things, if I can't find the answer by going to YouTube, I am so lost and I have no patience when it comes to technology. Allison Broski is a student and lead director of Grizz Hacks at Oakland University. Allison, what in the world is Grizz Hacks? And better yet, is it legal?
That's an excellent question, Ronnie. So Grizz Hacks is completely legal. Hackathons are actually incredibly popular all over the world. We are not the only organization that does this, nor are we the biggest organization that does this. So when I say Grizz Hacks is a hackathon, What I'm talking about is a programming competition. We have students from all different majors come to a center, in this instance, typically the Engineering Center at Oakland University. This year we're going to be virtual, so you can stay in the comfort of your home and just log on and join us. And you have between 24 and 36 hours, depending on the event, to build a project from the ground up. You have complete freedom to utilize the resources that you want to. Often we'll have hardware resources in an in-person event available to students. In this instance, we'll have plenty of software technology that they can utilize for free. And then you get to compete for prizes at the end of it. So Grizz Hacks has over $8,000 worth of prizes this year that we're giving out. And we're very excited to just have students come to our event, learn how to program. If they don't know anything about it, we're super beginner friendly. Or if they are familiar with it, build something incredible.
So is this more of an individual, or can people work with others to have a team?
We highly encourage teamwork. Teams can be individual, but we can go up to 4 individuals per team. And then everyone on that team is eligible for a prize at the end of it.
So is it just anything and everything that they want to try to program, or do you have stipulations or arenas that you try to stay within?
So that's an excellent question. It really depends on the event. For Grizz Hacks itself, we leave it up to the discretion of the hackers. Some events you'll see a health focus. We had a lot of COVID hacks over the summer that really focused on combating COVID and what we can do technology-wise to help aid our healthcare workers and different individuals that might need extra assistance. A lot of events, though, also leave it open-ended, so you can be developing web applications, websites. You can be doing some data mining and trying to work with artificial intelligence technology. We like to leave it open-ended because it does make it a little bit more beginner-friendly. And then if hackers or participants need an idea of what to build, then we offer them prize categories. So they can try and tailor their projects to be eligible to win one of those categories.
So Allison Broski with us. She's a student and the lead director of Grizz Hacks at Oakland University, joining us today on the Megacast. Allison, you mentioned earlier that people of all different experience levels, from people that are relatively new or entirely new to hacking to those who are experienced hackers, can join this competition. Are there resources available for people that are new to hacking, that are interested in this and want to get involved and learn throughout the process, and maybe even still be competitive in the competitions, for them to learn along the way as they're going and developing their own hacks?
Yeah, Tyler, that's an excellent question. And we have plenty of resources for beginners. The first we have available is we're giving 3 different tech talks right at the beginning of hacking. So we're doing an intro to Android development. We're doing an intro to GitHub. This is a version control system that helps you increment your code as you go throughout the development process. And we're doing intro to web development Friday night. And then we also have a whole beginners portal. So there will be tutorials on there. There'll be video links. There'll be different resources for hackers to utilize. And then we'll also have mentors from our sponsoring companies there. We'll have alumni mentors, and then there's always the organizers. And a lot of us are computer science students, so we're always ready to help hackers that needed a little bit of extra assistance, make sure they're able to continue progressing through their projects over the course of the weekend, and they're not frustrated, stuck at their desks, trying to figure out why they can't print a statement to their console.
Allison Broski she is the student and lead director over at Grizz Hacks at Oakland University. I'm on the website now, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, this is like a foreign language, using a new API or writing up a rubber duck. Yeah. Rubber duck to me is the little squeaky orange duck. So if someone has no background in this, is this a good event for them to try to dip their toes in?
Absolutely. So hackathons are often the first place students get exposure to programming, because it is that friendly space and you have all these resources, and it's not this intimidating classroom where you're sitting in front of a teacher absent-mindedly staring at their presentation. You actually get to work with technology. You get the immediate feedback that you need in order to succeed. I mean, most of my friends have started through hackathons, and that's how they really got involved with this and decided this is what they want to major in, and this is what they want their degrees to be in.
So speaking of degrees and a future, I know you said you do have sponsors and mentors from companies. I would imagine the future is bright for students such as yourself and others that go into this arena. Are you being sought after, and are there a lot of scholarships available for students that want to go into this arena?
Yeah, I would say it's a highly competitive market. There's lots of job opportunities. I was actually doing some research a couple of days ago that said the job growth in even just web development itself is about 8%. So that's over 10,000 jobs that we need in the next 9 years for development. And then there's plenty of opportunities for students to get involved with it, right? You mentioned scholarships. There's plenty of opportunities for students to get money in order to go to college or to go to a boot camp that really support especially women and diversity in STEM.
Allison Broski with us here. So give us a breakdown. Is this just for students? And do they have to be, if it is just for students, do they have to be Oakland University students, or can they be from anywhere?
So we are restricted to just students and those that have graduated within the last year. Some events do allow corporate individuals, but what we found is that often creates a very competitive space, and beginners might not feel that they'll be eligible for prizes, or they might not have a chance of completing a project if they're competing against individuals from like Facebook or Google. And so we do have that restriction of high school, middle school, university students, and those that have graduated within the last year.
How'd you get interested in this area?
I got interested in computer science completely by accident. I actually came into university as a mechanical engineering student and had an internship with an automotive company and discovered that automotive's great, but I'm going to a desk every day and doing the work and getting paid, and that's it. I'm going home. And one day I had an engineer come up to me and say, I want you to program an Excel macro. And I was like, this is the best thing in the world. I love it so much. And I kind of knew at that point I should make a switch to computer science. And then I got involved with hackathons by participating in Grizz Hacks 3. And that was my first experience at Oakland University doing a hackathon, and I loved it. I loved the team that I was working with. It was a completely different atmosphere from what you're doing in the classroom, right? You have a long stretch of time to do a project, and it's often guided. Like the teacher will tell you, okay, step one, we're typing in the terminal, and then we're going to move to a text editor in order to run that program. And then you're making a final project at the end of your 8 or 16 weeks. And a hackathon is, okay, you're building everything from the ground up in 24 hours. You're staying up until 4 or 5 in the morning trying to complete this project. You're feasting on all the junk food you want. You're meeting all kinds of different individuals from all over the world. I've made some of my best friends at hackathons, and I just love doing it. And that's why I got involved as an organizer, because I wanted to give students that same experience that I had at Grizz Hacks 3.
Allison Broski with us. She is a student and the lead organizer of Grizz Hacks at Oakland University, joining us today on the show. Allison, for those that do want to participate, what kind of materials or resources do they need to have, and can they start on any hacks that they would like to submit for this event before the event begins?
We do not allow students to start before the event. We want them to start at 8:30 Friday night from the ground up and build it over the course of that 36 hours that we have available to them. The only resources they really need is a computer and an internet connection. That's all you need essentially to be a developer. There's plenty of free resources that you're able to download to your computer. There's plenty of tutorials on the internet that you need to utilize. And then, like I mentioned before, we have that access to the mentors through a technology called Slack. So they'll be able to message different corporate and alumni mentors that'll help them out.
Well, let's hope that we don't have any severe storms this weekend and it knocks out the internet access to anyone. Allison, so I will say, if I would imagine, so it's virtual this year, which will be a different experience than being in person, but because this will involve so many people that already have pretty good computer skills, they're not going to be at that much of a disadvantage, right?
I would say not necessarily, no.
how do they, so many of these events, like we go to a conference or an event such as this, it's about those in-person connections and meetings. And while we do have online technology to be able to do that, it's still not the same as a face-to-face interaction. So do you think they're going to lose some of that excitement and connectivity with other individuals that maybe they wouldn't get, or that, being virtual? Or do you think this is actually going to be an asset in some ways?
That's an excellent question, Ronnie. And I think that's something even we've considered and we've struggled with as an organizing team, is how do we create the same level of engagement in a virtual event as we have in an in-person event, right? Because you don't have those spur of the moment meetups. You don't have those walking by the table moments and saying, oh, cool, you're working on a hardware hack and you're building a rubber duck. What's with these tiny little 3D printed ducks that are all around you? You do have to be more intentional with what you're doing, but we have plenty of events scheduled across the weekend to help hackers connect with one another. I think we have an event every hour over the course of these 36 hours for students to meet up, talk with one another in a very relaxed space. And we make sure that there's still opportunities to talk with the sponsors. We have a whole sponsorship expo from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. So they still have that opportunity to share their resumes, talk with potential recruiters, have that experience that they otherwise normally wouldn't get.
So, Allison, you mentioned earlier that you have participated in Grizz Hacks, and that's what really got you excited to go into the field of computer science. Have there been any projects that have come out of these hackathons to lead to, growth in the industry and permanent change in the society that we would recognize?
Off the top of my head, I can't point to anything specific. The main concern with that is the fact that these projects are really minimum viable products, right? Or they're patched together with some duct tape to make sure that they're able to be presented at the end of the project. But there are opportunities out there for students that build something that they're really passionate about and turn it into a full-time business. Lots of hackathons will offer different scholarships or different business incubators. Those are often at larger universities. Unfortunately, Oakland doesn't offer anything like that. But we have discussed what can we do to support hackers if they want to continue with their projects post-event.
So what would you recommend to, let's say I'm in junior high or I'm in high school, and I'm looking at this as a possibility, because I do think your generation and the younger generation, you're so tech savvy. What can you do, or what do you wish you would have done starting at maybe 7th, 8th, 9th grade to launch you into this career?
That's an awesome question. I would advise students be exploring what you're interested in. Don't feel like you need to peg yourself into one specific area because it makes a lot of money or it sounds prestigious. Because the thing about computer science is you do have to be dedicated to what you're doing. It is highly competitive in terms of what people are building, what people are learning, and it can feel a little bit overwhelming to anyone that's new to the industry to get involved. If students in high school and junior high are interested in pursuing computer science and they want a good place to start, Free Code Camp has some awesome free resources for you guys to learn the basic web development technologies. And then hackathons. Always recommend hackathons of just meeting up with older students, hearing what they have to say about being in computer science, computer engineering, and different engineering fields that are tied to this, and get exposure to what it means to be in this industry.
Allison Broski with us. She is the lead director of Grizz Hacks and is a student at Oakland University. So I think that people that maybe are interested in participating in Grizz Hacks are probably wondering, how does the judging work? What should they be aware of is what they're being judged on so that they can best prepare themselves to put their best foot forward in this competition?
Absolutely. Judging will happen on Sunday. For the top 10 prizes, it'll be judged by a panel of 5 industry and university professionals, and they'll be judging it based on innovation factor, what kind of documentation do you have? Were you able to tackle different challenges? Were you pushing yourself to try something new? And then we have sponsored prizes, and those will be judged by our sponsorship representatives. So they'll have an ultimate say on what kind of judging criteria that they utilize. The students are interested in those, definitely stick with the topic at hand that they've presented to you, and we'll present those at opening ceremony as well, and then tailor your project to that. We also have some random variety prizes like best beginner hack, best write-up, best use of GitHub. There's not a lot you can do except utilize those technologies and show us that you've done really well with them.
So Allison, when they come in and they start the 36 hours, are the participants handed certain guidelines and thresholds that they need to meet in order to reach the pinnacle and win those prizes?
So the only guidelines we set are start and end your hack within the 36-hour time period, and then a little bit of documentation. This year, we're going to need a 2-minute video, the title, and then the write-up. We'll be using a website called DevPost, and that's very popular among the hackathon community for submitting and displaying your projects. And that's all they really need.
This is all like a foreign language to me, I just have to tell you. So Grizz Hacks is 36 straight hours of hacking. It starts Friday night, September 18th. And goes until Sunday, September 20th. It is going to be virtual this year, which I would imagine there's going to be a shortage of Red Bull around the Oakland University campus right now.
Yeah. Yep. Unfortunately, that's one of the regrets of this year, right? COVID put a kink in the plans of holding it at the Engineering Center. But we still hope to create the same awesome atmosphere, still have a fun party, and celebrate 5 years of hackathons, and then see everyone next year at Grizz Hack 6 at Oakland University.
I will say this has been so awesome. Thank you for sharing Grizz Hacks with me. I didn't know such things existed, because especially when you say hacking, people think it's something illegal. So it's great to see that competitions such as this do exist. Anything you need to get out to the listeners and viewers that maybe we didn't touch on before we let you go?
Yeah. If you're interested in participating in Grizz Hacks, go to grizzhacks.com to register, and then we'll be sending out some more information over the course of today and tomorrow about how to actually start participating. It's going to be a great event, over $8,000 in prizes, tons of learning opportunities, and we encourage everyone of all levels and majors, even if you don't have a major, to participate.
Oh, and quickly, is there a cost associated?
No cost. It is completely free. No kinds of, do you have to be a U.S. citizen? You can be from Canada if you have listeners in Canada. We have plenty of people in the Pacific and Asia coming over to the event because it's virtual. So really, as long as you're a student, you can attend the event.
That is so awesome. Thank you so much, Allison, for being with us, and good luck hacking and hack away. And I'm sure this weekend you're going to have absolutely no sleep. But we wish you and all of the participants the best of luck. And you know what? Good luck with your future as well. We need so many bright young students like you to help lead us into this next generation. So good luck to you as well.
Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Tyler, for having me on.
Allison Broski with us. She's a student and lead director, Grizz Hacks, Oakland University, starting Friday night, 36 hours of hacking. I didn't know such things existed. See, this show is so educational, Tyler.
It is. It really is. You learn something every day.
We really do. I mean, we have so many different guests from so many different varieties of topics and walks of life and backgrounds, and it's always great to be able to talk with them. We are going to take a quick break, and one thing we are going to talk about, something we don't like to talk about, but something that we need to know about, is construction in Oakland County. I always get tired of the orange barrels. You're listening to the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dull alongside Tyler Keefe here in the Civic Center TV studios and the studios of 89.3 Lakes FM in the West Bloomfield area. We are going to check in now. Craig Bryson, he's a senior communications manager for the Road Commission for Oakland County. Craig, you've been in that position for so many years. Do you ever get tired of the questions about construction?
Amazingly enough, every year it's different. The projects are different. The challenges are different. The communities are different. As much as there's some repetition, there's enough difference to make it exciting every year.
While COVID, I am sure, threw a monkey wrench into some of the projects, one thing that does seem to be cooperating this year is Mother Nature. Where do some of the bigger projects stand? Are you ahead of schedule, on schedule? What are those looking like?
Well, it's a little bit of all of the above. Depends on which project you're talking about, and I can run through some of the big ones for you. We've got the 12-mile resurfacing project in downtown Berkeley, which is coming along nicely. The downtown Berkeley businesses are open. It's a little bit of an inconvenience while we're working. The road is open through there, but it's down to 2 lanes. That should be done in mid to late October or early November, depending on what the weather does between now and then. We've got 12-mile road from Losser to Telegraph in Southfield. That's a resurfacing project, and that's virtually done. There's some restoration work and a little bit of work remaining, but it's mostly done. Baldwin Road in Orion Township is a huge project, and that's run into some unexpected challenges over the last couple of years. It's a multi-year project. It's about a $50 million project to reconstruct Baldwin Road from just north of I-75 up to Walden as a 4-lane boulevard or 5-lane road in places with 5 roundabouts as well. They're making really good progress this year. It's getting close to being done, but there's a lot of landscaping left to be done. The township's chipping in a bunch of money for a bunch of decorative features along the road, including a fountain. That's taken a little bit longer than expected, but it's coming along well. Another big one this year is DeQuinder Road from Utica Road to Collins Road. That's on the Rochester Hills, Shelby Township border, right on the east edge of Oakland County. That's about a $9.3 million widening project from 2 lanes to 5. And that's coming along well, but there's still a lot of work to do. And actually starting September 24th, approximately, we're going to close Auburn Road at the west side of DeQuinder to rebuild the west side of the DeQuinder-Auburn intersection, which is a big component of the project. And that'll be closed until about November 1st. So that'll be a little bit of an inconvenience for the people in that community, but well worth it when it's done. Another big one is North Holly Road in Holly Township. That's a 4.5-mile resurfacing project. We're reconstructing 3 sections of the road to improve drainage, rebuilding a retaining wall at Belford Road near the Great Lakes Cemetery up there. And that one's coming along well. We finished or opened the southern half of the road. Now we've shifted the closure to the north half of the road from Belford north to the county line. Works progressing well on that. Let's see, a couple other things in Independence Township. We've got a couple of road closures as projects continue. We've got Clintonville Road from Maybe to Walden. That's part of the township-wide township millage resurfacing program. That's underway. Sashabaw Road, just south of Pine Knob Road in the north end of Independence Township. We're replacing a culvert, and that remains closed until probably early November. That's kind of a the bigger projects we've got going. We've got a number of little smaller ones too, but those are the bigger ones.
So, Craig, a lot of these road construction projects are not decided on a dime unless it's an emergency. I would imagine that you have some type of plan in place as to which projects you're going to do when and then how much they cost. What is that process like, and which ones do you decide to do and at what time frame? Is this something that you're looking at a year, 2, 3 years out?
Many times it's way more than that. The Baldwin project, for example, has been in the works for probably 25 years. It was being planned before I got here, and I've been here 23 years. So it's a long process, and in part that's driven by the funding process. Federal funding is what we use as the bulk of the funding for most of the major projects, and that's typically awarded at least 3 or 4 years out. It's a complex application process. It's a very competitive process. So we have to have our priorities lined up years and years in advance. There's a lot that goes into that. We look at crash history on roads, for example. We look at road condition, traffic volume. Traffic volume is a huge driver. If we've got 2 roads in bad shape and one carries 50,000 cars a day and one carries 2,000 cars a day, the one that carries 50,000 cars a day is probably going to be a higher priority, probably get done sooner. We've got engineering questions. Is there a sight distance issue on a road? Is there a curve that's been a problem for years? Something that we can correct with a project. So a lot goes into it. And there are other funding sources too. If we're relying on local funding sources, different criteria, just a whole lot that goes into these processes.
So with COVID-19 being the focus right now, are you concerned some funding could be diverted away from road projects because so much is being dedicated to address COVID-19?
That's a great question. And right now it's a big concern to us. As you've probably heard recently, the state legislature and the governor have apparently reached a tentative budget deal for 2021. And they've noted that K-12 will be held harmless. What they haven't said is where the cuts are going to come from, because they have to make some cuts. COVID's taken a lot of money out of the state budget. Our great concern is that they will cut road funding. And that's because back in 2015, when they approved the most recent road funding package, they committed half of the new dollars to come from the state general fund. Traditionally, road funding comes from gas tax, vehicle registration fees. Those two things are constitutionally protected. They have to be used on roads. General fund dollars are different. The legislature can reallocate those dollars pretty much anytime they choose with some legislative action and take money away from some source. They committed $600 million a year from the general fund indefinitely for roads starting in 2021. So we still haven't even received the full amount from that yet. And we're concerned that they may have to take money away from that to fill the budget holes. That's a huge concern. It could end up being minor, or it could end up being completely detrimental to road improvement programs across the state.
Craig Bryson joining us. He is the Senior Communications Manager at the Road Commission for Oakland County, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. So, Craig, as the seasons change, particularly from spring into summer, but also summer into fall, we experience a lot more severe weather. How does severe weather affect the road conditions, and what does the Road Commission for Oakland County and other road commissions in the local area do to help protect drivers on the roads as a result of those severe storms?
Great question. And, starting in the fall and then through the winter, that is our number one priority. And obviously we do that with salt trucks and snow plows. We have a very elaborate plan of how we attack a snow incident, and it depends completely on what day of the week it hits, what time of the day it hits. If it hits on a Sunday morning, for example, versus Wednesday at evening rush hour, we're going to address it differently. So we have a set of regulations that say it's this time of day on a weekday, this amount of trucks are deployed. If it's a heavy snow at this time on a weekend, this number of trucks are deployed. So we put a lot of thought in that. We review that process every year. We also, starting in the fall, we sit down with all of our snowplow, salt truck drivers, and we go over with them again all the procedures, all the safety factors. But of course, our top goal in all of that is to make the roads as safe as possible. We don't want anything to happen to any drivers. Of course, that's partly we remind drivers that you need to drive appropriately for the conditions in the fall and winter as well. But we want to do everything we can to make the roads safe. So it's a huge issue for us. It's a multi tens of millions of dollar expenditure every year, and it's an expenditure for which we have no improvements to show for it. But it's well worth the investment if we can keep people safe.
So, Craig, we all know Mother Nature can be unpredictable. And believe it or not, at one point in time, I did weather in Lansing. I was not very good. So I also know what it's like to, have to try to predict the weather. And it's hard to do. But I will say, I remember always reading the Farmer's Almanac. When I got married, I bought a Farmer's Almanac to check the weather for our wedding date. Go ahead, tell us, do you have the latest edition of Farmer's Almanac there at the Road Commission? We won't tell anyone, just a few thousand people.
I don't, but we do look at the woolly caterpillars to see how thick their wool is every year and use that as a factor. But, frankly, we do follow a lot of the weather forecasts. We subscribe to our own Doppler radar service. We subscribe to weather forecasting services that are just designed for road agencies. We listen to all of the local weather channels and stations. But you're absolutely right. The reality is sometimes all of those services miss a storm or are incorrect in their forecasts. And sometimes we get caught with a storm that nobody predicted, came out of nowhere and dumps a bunch of snow on us. And that's the worst situation for us. It's the worst situation for drivers. Nobody's ready for it. Nobody's prepared for it. And we have to scramble to respond to it. We do have all of our drivers are on call, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day during the winter. So we're able to mobilize relatively quickly, but not, at the drop of a hat.
Craig, as we get closer to those winter months, those snowier months, I think people would also be curious to know how the determination of priority of areas that are covered is determined. Who's going to get plowed first and which areas get plowed last?
Great question. And it's really a relatively simple answer. It's dictated by safety. So the roads that have the most traffic moving at the highest speeds are our top priority. So that's the freeways, first and foremost. And then from there, we move down to the most busy surface streets, the Big Beavers, the Southfield Road, the mile roads, the major mile roads, those roads that have a lot of traffic. And we work down from there. Now, unfortunately, the reality of that priority system is that subdivision streets are the last that we get to because they have the least amount of traffic and it's moving at the lowest speeds. So, our safety mandates that we work down in that priority. And additionally, if we plowed the subdivision streets first, people might be able to get out of their homes and to the end of their subdivision, but they wouldn't be able to go anywhere outside of that. So that's the priority system we use.
Well, on the other side of that, I've been stuck at the end of my driveway and in my subdivision and haven't been able to get out. But this whole COVID-19 pandemic has changed a lot of things because so many people are working remotely. So many students and schools are now doing remote learning. But from a gas tax standpoint, that has to mean a hit to your budget.
Oh, it does. It does. And that's the big concern. Fortunately, the gas tax revenues have come back up a bit since the peak of the virus, but they're still well below where they should be this time of year, and that's an ongoing concern, and that directly impacts our ability to do everything we do. That's our single biggest source of funding. That's our operating revenues. So we're very concerned going forward. As a matter of policy, safety-related functions will always be the last that we cut. So, plowing and salting the snow, patching potholes, emergency road repairs will be the last thing that we cut. But, we may have to look at cutting other things, aesthetic issues, simple resurfacing projects that improve the quality of road but are not absolutely necessary. Some of those things, may have to be cut in the future, and that's something we're studying closely as we progress into 2021.
Greg Bryson with us. He's the Senior Communications Manager at the Road Commission for Oakland County, joining us today on the program. So Craig, just a few more minutes with you before we have to let you go. Is there anything else from the Road Commission, any other information that would be important for our audience to know at this moment in time, or any other topics you'd like to discuss today?
Well, I did just want to touch on one of the big initiatives we've undertaken in recent years is something we call the Preservation Overlay Program. That's where we do simple resurfacing projects. We put about 2 inches of asphalt down on a road with minimal other work, very little base repair, very little drainage work. And we've been able to do a lot of miles of roads, several hundred miles of roads in recent years with that program. This year, we'll do about 65 miles of road. We're nearing the end of that program. But that's where we come in. Usually it only takes 3 or 4 days of actual work over about a 2-week period to put that new surface down. But it's a vast improvement on the road. It's a great program. We're really happy with it. The public seems to really like it. But that could be one of the victims if there is a budget cut in the coming fiscal year. That could be one of the big victims of that budget cut. But in the meantime, we hope everybody's realizing the work that's going on around the county and seeing all that new asphalt going down.
We definitely see the orange barrels, so that does mean that you all are working. Craig, before we let you go, it's an age-old question. What can be done to fix our roads so that we're not repairing them so often? Because the potholes in Michigan are legendary. And I do understand when you drive to Ohio and you cross the border, it seems as if the roads are so much smoother in the state of Ohio, just as you go across the border. Now, I have also talked to the people in Toledo, and I do know that Jeep pays for the repairs in that area because it's right there by the plant and they have so many heavy trucks. So that's one reason why the road is so much better as you cross the border. However, the perception is Michigan's roads are so much worse than other northern states. Is there a possibility, or is there any product in development that could extend the lifeline of some of these repairs?
Yes. However, that's not the problem. We know how to build roads to last a long time. We simply don't have the money to do it. And Ohio is a great example. Ohio has been spending about $1 billion more a year on their road system for 15 years now. And they have an approximately equivalent size road system, but their gas tax has been much higher than ours for a long time. And an additional $1 billion a year for 15 years will make a big difference on a road system. So it's, they're not doing anything different than we are. Our engineers are involved in national organizations. They talk to other engineers in other states. We know the processes, we know the techniques. They're using essentially the same techniques, essentially the same materials as we are. They're just doing a lot more of it. For example, I mentioned the preservation overlays. We're able to do those because they're inexpensive. If we reconstructed more of the roads that need to be reconstructed, that would cost dramatically more. It would last a lot longer, but it would take a lot more money than we have available. And Michigan has been one of the bottom states in the nation, and I know I've said this before, but it's true. As far as spending on roads, we've been in the bottom 9 states in the nation since at least 1964 in per capita state and local spending on roads. We haven't invested in the road system, and as much as we sometimes don't like to think about it in these terms, it really comes down to money. You get what you pay for, and we have not paid as much as residents in every other state, especially the states around the Great Lakes. Almost every state around the Great Lakes spends dramatically more than we do. Wisconsin, Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, they're all investing dramatically more in their road systems, and thus they have far better roads to show for it.
So when you say they're investing more, because I was under the impression, and again, my memory as I get older is not as strong as it once was, Michigan actually has one of the highest gas tax. Is it that we're not investing coming from the general fund? No,
that statement is not correct. So we have one of the highest, if you include the sales tax as well as the gas tax, those two combined, we have one of the highest tax rates on gasoline. However, none of the sales tax goes to roads. It goes to schools and local revenue sharing. But our gas tax has until 2017 been one of the lower ones in the nation, well below average. It's now above average in the nation as of the gas tax increase of 2017, but it's still lower, dramatically lower, for example, than Wisconsin or Ohio. So we are not collecting more money than other states.
So is this a matter of the lawmakers needing to realign some of that general fund so that it does go to our roads? And the funny thing about all this, this is what our governor actually ran on. This was a big part of her platform.
Right. And if you recall, her first proposal right out of the gate was to raise the gas tax by 45 cents. That fell flat and went absolutely nowhere. And it's a huge increase. But she said that based on a scientific analysis of the needs of the roads in the state. That wasn't just a random number she picked out of her hat. That was a number that was put together by MDOT engineers and road experts from across the state that said, if you really want to have a first-rate road system, this is the amount of investment that's required. Now, it's probably unrealistic politically to think we'll ever get to that point, but we do need to move somewhere up if we really want to see our roads even comparable with other states.
So when we talk about road conditions here in the state of Michigan, for a lot of us, it's just an inconvenience, but there is actually a lot of scientific and research behind this that it attracts new business into the state, right?
Absolutely. And if you look around other parts of the country, North Carolina is a great example. They spend a whole lot of economic development money on roads. We do very little of that in Michigan. We have the Transportation Economic Development Fund, which is one state and federal combined program, but it's a fraction of what a lot of other states spend. And that there's no question it attracts businesses, it retains businesses. We're competing with states across the country and sometimes outside the country to retain the businesses we have. And the more we can do to help them, the more likely they are to stay. But again, that requires money.
So many needs, so little dollars to get it all done.
Right.
We need to learn to stretch those dollars because they are our tax dollars. Craig, thanks for being with us. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. But quickly before we let you go, anything that you want to add, or did we pretty much cover the whole world here?
Well, I think you've covered a lot of stuff. Just wanted to say you're based there in West Bloomfield. I know you cover a much larger area, but I just wanted to give a little shout out to Supervisor Kaplan in West Bloomfield. They're a great community to work with. They're great partners on road projects, and we appreciate them and appreciate all the stuff that you guys do to help share information. It's so vital and critical that we have good, objective information available, and you guys do a great job of that.
Well, thank you so much. And also give our kudos to the entire staff at the Road Commission, because you guys do so much. I think you're underappreciated, especially during the winter months. I know some of the drivers are working insane hours when we get these
Absolutely.
storms and they're getting up in the middle of the night or if it's a holiday. So we do appreciate it, and I'm sure they don't get that enough. So thank you so much.
You.
And I will say that talking to you and this 45-cent tax hike, and I know we're not going there because we have the bonds now, but I have an electric smart car. And, not having to go to the gas station is really, really nice. It's amazing. It's not only the money on gas that you save. It's, when you go to the gas station, you feel like you have to walk in and get a soda or get a water or this, that, and the other. So smart car all the way. People laugh at me, though, Craig. Everyone laughs at me in my little smart car.
Well, and now you're paying a little bit of a surcharge on your vehicle registration fees to help contribute to the road. So we appreciate that.
Yes, it was an extra $100 because I have two cars. So, my regular SUV, and I was like, whoa, but it's worth it because I save it in gas. So thanks so much for taking time to be with us. We appreciate it. And stay safe, stay healthy over there at the Oakland County Road Commission. Tyler and I are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to continue the conversation this morning with U.S. Representative Brenda Lawrence on the Oakland County Megacast.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green or blue.
But one thing we can all agree on to help stop the spread of COVID-19, wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
Thank you for tuning in to the Thursday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. You can catch us Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. until noon. I think 10 a.m. till noon, but we actually start our day much earlier than that. But we are on civiccentertv.com, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, and also 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. And if you do still pay for cable, we appreciate you. You can catch us on Channel 15 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T, and also today we are streaming live on the West Bloomfield Township Clerk's Office Facebook page. We want to say thank you to them for allowing to share the Megacast with all of their viewers and their friends on their Facebook page. Tyler, we are going to be checking in with the U.S. Representative Brenda Lawrence. She's running a little bit behind, but a lot of news still happening 6 months into the pandemic. And one of the things that I did see is they're now saying there is a possibility that COVID-19 was in the states back in December and January. And we have had so many people I know say the same thing, that they felt like they were sick and they had this early in December or late in January, February, but there was no test for it. So everything was coming up negative.
It wouldn't be entirely surprising. There were a lot of people that do get sick around those times of the year, and maybe their symptoms were more severe this year than they normally are if they're getting sick at those times of the year, and they think they had it. But I don't know that we'll ever know for sure if it was here then or not.
Yeah, I spoke to some person. He works in a hospital, said several people got sick this past December. Obviously, there was no test for COVID during that time, but he recently got tested for the antibodies and came back positive. Oh. So maybe for those people that were sick, that felt that they have it, maybe is a good time for them to get tested for the antibodies, because you can donate your plasma, which is always a good thing. But, it's sad to see that this disease is still taking hold on our community. And yesterday, during Governor Whitmer's press conference, it was announced that a 2-month-old has died from complications related to COVID-19. Now, circumstances of the child's death were not immediately detailed by the state, but Chief Medical Executive Dr. Jonay Caldoun acknowledged the death of the young infant, while noting about 800 kids across the U.S. have been diagnosed with multi-system inflammatory syndrome that's associated with COVID-19. The 2-month-old was the youngest COVID-19 related fatality reported in the state so far, and the only child younger than 1 in Michigan to have died from the virus. Latest state totals right now, we added about 680 new cases yesterday, bringing the state's total number of coronavirus cases to just under 114,000 cases here in the state of Michigan. And that, of course, number is, who knows, obviously not accurate probably to the most, because I would imagine there are a lot of people, especially asymptomatic people, that have had it and didn't know they had it. And then there's been an issue with the testing. Remember, in the beginning, we didn't have a test at all. So only a few people were being tested. And then there's been an issue of the accuracy of the test as well.
Yeah, there's still a lot of testing that still needs to be done, and the accuracy has always been up for question. There's obviously more tests now than there were initially during the pandemic that are producing quicker results that are more accurate than initially, but there's still a lot of questions out there, and there's still a lot of answers that need to be had, and more accurate testing is always going to be something that the medical community is striving for to help us better fight this ongoing pandemic.
Testing gives us answers, and COVID-19 outbreak has been recognized over at Novi at the high school. So the athletics at Novi High School have been postponed 5 students at the school tested positive, prompting classes to switch to virtual learning for the remainder of this week at least. And also all athletic events, including practices, have been postponed until September 20th. Students are also not allowed to use athletic facilities at Novi High School or the middle school, but that's not the only school. We've been talking about the outbreak on college campuses. Well, now students at Grand Valley State University have been ordered to stay in their residence for 2 weeks due to a spike of coronavirus cases linked to the campus. There have been more than 600 cases of COVID-19 among students since August 23rd, the majority among students living off campus. That's according to the Ottawa County Health Department. So it's a stay-in-place order. It starts today. The students have to stick to their on-campus or off-campus residence unless attending classes, exercising, getting food, seeking health care, or working at an essential job. They cannot return to their home community unless there's an emergency. School officials are warning these students if they do not play along and they do not follow the rules, there will be consequences, and that could be even suspension from school. Can you imagine being a college student and explaining that to your parents? Oh, sorry, Mom, sorry, Dad, I know we paid all this money, but I got kicked out because I was out partying.
Yeah, and these universities have to take this stand at this point because in a lot of cities all throughout the U.S., the large hotbeds in many of these major cities and many of these major population centers around the cities have been based upon the college towns and based upon college cities. And so that correlates, but it doesn't necessarily present causation that it's because of the return of college students. And so these universities, having contact traced COVID cases back to their own students, want to make sure that, hey, look, you've been here being college students, not necessarily taking COVID-19 all too seriously. We have major outbreaks on our campus. The only way we're going to be able to stop it, really, or encourage you to stop it, is to say if it continues on and we figure out that you have not been following these regulations, that your academic standing at our institution could be in jeopardy.
So earlier this week, we told you about how East Lansing is going after these students as well. There were 30 properties identified as hotspots in the city of East Lansing, some sororities, some fraternities, or just student housing off campus. And they are actually going to be doing surprise visits to say, we come knocking on your door, you better be there, and you better be following the rules. And they went as far as these buildings had to post quarantine notices on the door. It's like a big notice to the community and all visitors. We haven't been playing by the rules.
Oh. Yeah, and they're taking severe precautions there in Ingham County and in the city of East Lansing because Michigan State was one of those first places in the state since schools have reopened at all levels to have major outbreaks, and 30 different properties in the city, a lot of them with college students living there. You have to provide incentive to these people to stop being irresponsible, and if that's the way you got to do it, then that's the way you got to do it.
So one thing we haven't heard from recently, University of Michigan, the numbers actually seem to be going down a little bit there because in the beginning they were saying, hey, you can't be doing this, and there were some outbreaks in the beginning, but that seems to be quieting down a little bit at the University of Michigan, although there are a lot of other things going on with the university. It will be interesting to see if the numbers can spike back up there as Big Ten football continues to get back in session, because it was announced that they are back up and running. So when's the first game? I think it's going to be October 24th, Tyler?
Yeah, it's like mid to late October, I believe.
So Big Ten football coming back to Big Ten or to the college campuses. So we'll see if these cases continue to spike on the college campuses or if the students have been served a harsh enough warning that they are going to start taking things a little bit seriously. So we're going to go ahead now. Brenda Lawrence, she is the U.S. representative for Michigan's 14th Congressional District. She's joining us this morning on the Oakland County Megacast. It is so good for you to have you with us this morning. Thank you for taking time out. I would imagine your schedule is probably crazy busy.
It is, but we just have a lot of work to do. It's an honor to be with you today. And to all the listeners, I'm really honored to have this opportunity to speak with you.
So many things going on right now. Where do you even want to start? Maybe with the Postal Service, you name it, because there's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about. If I could jump into the Postal Service, I want everyone to know that prior to going into Congress, I had almost a 30-year career with the United States Postal Service. And so when all of this discussion and complaints and concerns were rising about postal delivery, obviously I was pulled into it and was very engaged. So let me tell you the reality. The Postal Service touches every single home in America. The only organization or federal agency that does that. So the approval rating of the Postal Service is in the 90s. It's trusted. People depend on it. As we know, our veterans, our seniors are getting their medications by mail during this pandemic. If it were not for the Postal Service and other delivery agencies, we would not have been able to have our basic human needs. And so we dived right into it, and we found that there were sorting machines that sorts 37,000 pieces of mail an hour were being removed from facilities. In Detroit, it was 5 of them. In Pontiac, they had about 3 of them. And then we were hearing that the carriers were given a whole different delivery program, and all of these actions and removing collection boxes were delaying the mail. And so we called the Postmaster General in front of my committee, which is government oversight, and we sent letters to him to cease and desist, because as we know, our election is coming up. And voting, because of a pandemic, is going to be very dependent on a mail system. It can't go to a private company because it is our mail, and we need a federal agent partner, and that's the Postal Service. And so when we heard that this was happening, we called him before us for a congressional hearing. We sent a letter, cease and desist. He did agree in writing to stop removing machines, to stop changing delivery schedules, and to stop removing collection boxes until after the election. I found we have had elections during world wars, from pandemics, from national disasters. We've always been able to pivot to the Postal Service when people cannot get to their polls. And this is a situation we're in now, and we just can't have that happening.
You offer such an important insight and voice to this issue because you are a prior employee of the Postal Service. But because we are changing how we use the Postal Service, people just don't mail things like they used to as an email or something of that nature. Hasn't the Postal Service been experiencing budget issues for years and bleeding money? So what can be done to address those issues, and why is it just now being such a hotbed of an issue? Is it because of the election year?
It's absolutely because of the election year. I sit on government oversight, and part of my job is to provide oversight and to ensure that the Postal Service is functioning in a way so it can be efficient and meet its goals. And so what was so troubling is that, first of all, the Postmaster General had not been on the job 2 months and immediately came in making all these drastic changes. And he even admitted in his hearing he had no clue the impact these type of just major changes would have on the delivery of the mail. Now, we know that we have a drop dead date to vote. And if I put my ballot in the mail system and the mail is sitting in facilities and not getting to the clerk's office, my right to vote has been denied. And that cannot happen at this time. And so we told him, we get that you're the Postmaster General. I definitely respect that, knowing the role that a Postmaster General plays. But first of all, we don't understand this just drastic, massive, just removing of machines. It was just chaos. And the union, the employees, and on top of a pandemic. So the Postal Service is an essential worker. They've been going to work during this whole pandemic, and they have been hit hard with cases and deaths within the organization. Why would you come in and create this chaos? If no one could understand it, and then when you look at the impact, but the Postal Service has replaced handwritten and first-class mail with parcels, because as we know, and during this pandemic, it really doubled. People are using mail delivery for basic things like ordering food and household supplies and clothes and everything through the Postal Service. So the Postal Service has a future. They're going to have to make some changes, but they cannot dismantle the Postal Service where it becomes inefficient.
U.S. Representative Brenda Lawrence joining us today. She is from Michigan's 14th Congressional District, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast this morning. And later on this week, you will be hosting a town hall alongside some local clerks and Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. Can you tell us a little bit about what will be discussed at that town hall?
So there has been a term used that every American citizen should plan their vote, because you have a lot of options. So let's talk about your options. First of all, you can request an absentee ballot, and you can fill out that ballot and mail it in. You can go to your clerk's office, request a ballot or register, and vote that same day, fill it out, and hand it to the clerk. You can actually go to the poll on election day. That's still an option for you, and do the traditional way. Go to the polling center, fill out your ballot, and enter into the machine. So we want everyone to understand how they can plan their vote, what's best works for you. We also have these collection boxes throughout the state, where if you don't go to your clerk's office, you can safely deposit your ballot into these voting ballot boxes. So to explain all that and to help everyone with this, on this Friday, September 18th, from 6 to 7, we're going to have a virtual town hall in planning your absentee vote in a COVID-19 environment. And we're going to have the West Bloomfield Township Clerk, Debbie Biner. We're going to have the Pontiac City Clerk, Garland Dole, and the Hamtramck City Clerk, August Grambling. And so when we have all of these clerks on there, including the amazing Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, to talk and answer questions, it'll be live and you'll be able to answer questions. You can watch, but I want everyone to know that in West Bloomfield, in Farmington Hills, and in all the surrounding areas in the 14th District, you can always call me at Congresswoman Lawrence at thathouse.gov, and you can get some answers from me as well. But this is an opportunity. It's part of my job to keep you informed. Voting is one of the requirements of being an American citizen. There's only 3 things that's asked of you as an American citizen. It is to be counted every 10 years, and I must use this time to say, please, if you have not completed your census, do so now. There's a lot of discussion about cutting off the census, and in addition to that, the other thing that's asked of you is that you pay your taxes. And the third thing is that you vote, because we have a democracy. That's how our government runs. And it doesn't run if we don't participate in our democracy by voting. And it's a privileged right because no one else outside of America can come in here and vote, and only American citizens. And it is such a privilege, and our democracy depends on it.
It is such a privilege, and so many people have fought for our right to vote. So
Yes.
do them justice and all the work that they did to give us that right, and we appreciate that. I will say I'm kind of old school in that I like to go to the polls because I want my I voted sticker. Now on social media, it's a big thing. Who has the best sticker? So definitely, and we've covered this issue at length as well here on the Megacast, and for anyone, so it's great that you are doing this as well, because we spoke at length with Debbie Binder here, and every time we do, I have additional questions for her as well. So thank you for doing that. Can we also touch on the relief package, COVID-19 relief package? What is it like right now for you to be an elected leader and in DC with so much divisiveness? Can we come together to get some of these issues resolved? Because going into the winter months, there's so many concerns that so many more businesses are going to go under because of COVID-19. And how do we come together as a nation to support them and to support all of us to get us through this crisis?
You know, the question is when we have to do it. So far, we've passed the CARES Act, and the CARES Act took care of testing. It took care of our hospitals. It gave us that, I call it bridge over troubled waters for the American citizens. That was the extra payment in unemployment and the stimulus check. We have so many issues because we did not anticipate that COVID would be around and be impacting our country at this long of a period. So now, you know, in the first CARES Act, we took care of loans for our small businesses. In the HEROES Act, which is being negotiated, believe me, Nancy Pelosi is going to the table. Mnuchin and Meadows, I think those are the negotiators right now. And they are moving. It's not moving fast enough for me, but they are moving. There was a disagreement on issues, as there always have been and always will be, between a two-party system of government. But I'm hopeful that within the next couple of weeks we'll have something. But in the HEROES Act, we're going to talk about our cities and the municipalities. Now, let me share something with you. With the civil distress and the outcry for criminal justice reform, this term of defunding the police, which I, being a former mayor, do not support defunding the police. We need our police department, and we need to support them. But if we have cities trying to balance their budget, and after spending all of this money for COVID, some of the communities right around us were hotspots. And we have to get money back into the city's coffers, or else the number one line item on every city's budget is public safety, your police and your fire. They're going to have to make layoffs like they did when we had our financial crisis. So we don't want to defund the operations of cities. We have to give monies to our state, our county, and our cities. We need more money for testing. As if any of you have ever gone in and gotten a test, you know that the wait time and sometimes the unavailability of a test. We have to look at housing. So many people are at the verge of losing their homes. And so all these things are on the table. And there is not if. We must come to an agreement and address these issues.
U.S. Representative Brenda Lawrence with us on the Oakland County Megacast today, all throughout the Oakland County area. She's holding a town hall this Friday with multiple city clerks and with Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. You can find more information on that on Representative Lawrence's website. That is www.lawrence.house.gov to register for the event and to find more updates. Representative Lawrence, just a few more minutes with you before we have to let you go today. Any other information that would be important for our audience to know, or any other topics that you would like to discuss today?
Yes, I want to talk a little bit about schools and sending your children back to school. That is a very personal decision that every parent has to make. But I will be having a town hall too on that, and most of our schools have gone virtual. Tools and resources that you need at home for your child to be able to be successful. I want you to know that Congress is not naive to the fact that some of you are having to go back to work as we reopen our economy, and childcare is a really big issue. And we are legislating. We have sent a bill over to the Senate. Again, we sent a bill to the Senate, and it will provide assistance for child care facilities and for parents to get tax credits for child care. The other thing I want everyone to recognize is that the census, again, voting are at the top, but please remember your health. Wearing a mask is not a political statement. Wearing a mask is not only respectful of others, but it says, the saying, put the mask on yourself first before you help others. We can take this virus out. We're waiting on a vaccine. The scientists are saying it won't be until the middle of next year before we have a really viable vaccine. And so it's the wearing the mask and, limiting large gatherings. We can do this. The numbers are going in the right direction now. If we could just get our campuses, our universities and colleges on the right path, our numbers in general have been going in the right direction. So I just wanted to share that while I have this time. Please, please wear the mask. Limit your social gatherings, and pay attention. Get tested when needed, and pay attention. And we'll get through this. We'll get through this. This is not taking away a right, because wearing the mask is only going to be needed while this pandemic is attacking us. So it's not taking away a right. It's just saying, as Americans, we're always locked hands and came together to fight off any enemy. And the enemy right now is COVID-19.
That's a good perspective. I always think of the mask as our fashion statement. We should have approached it like that from the beginning. It's not a political statement, it's a fashion statement.
I have many fashion statements. Matter of fact, I shouldn't want.
I'm going to a wedding this weekend, and I bought a fancy one. Oh, that's a cute one. See?
Very nice.
I have almost every color, and it's you got to take lemons and make lemonade. And sometimes I'm out and I see some really nice masks, and so I just encourage everyone. That'd be really cool to have a special one for a wedding. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if the bride had one as her veil? Really nice.
that would make for a very unique wedding album, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. We always appreciate having you here on the Oakland County Megacast. You're always invited to come back. We appreciate your hard work. While some people have been off during this time, we know that you and your staff have not been. And to all of our elected leaders, it may not seem like a lot is getting done, but you guys are working around the clock. And we want to say thank you to you and your team. And come back to the Megacast at any time and show off your mask.
Okay, I will. So everyone be safe. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Brenda Lawrence. She's the U.S. Representative, Michigan's 14th Congressional District. Put the politics aside, and we have to recognize that our elected leaders, state, local as well as federal, they have been working around the clock during this pandemic to try to come up with answers and solutions and to help get us through this crisis. And as the Congresswoman said, none of us expected to still be here 6 months later, but they are still navigating this crisis. So we want to say thank you to them and everyone for what they are doing. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. And when we come back, so many people are starting to work out again. The gyms are back open. Sports injuries could be your downfall. How to get back to the grind at the gym and stay safe. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Thank you for tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keefe here in the Lakes FM studio and Civic Center TV studio in the West Bloomfield area. So many people are heading back to the gyms now as they reopened. Also, we're seeing high school students. The athletes are back, going to be participating in sports again. And the big news coming out this week, Big Ten football is coming back. And exercise is great. It does our body well. It does our mind well, but there could also be injuries if we are not careful. Joining us now on the Oakland County Megacast is Dr. Ronald Letterman. He's an orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine doctor over at the Center for Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me. What a beautiful morning.
We have had some amazing weather this summer and this fall. We deserve it with everything we are going through, right?
Totally agree. It's wonderful to see. Have you ever seen more people outside walking and jogging and biking and socializing at a distance with wearing proper masks? But it's just been beautiful. And of course, the cool weather is upon us, so people are figuring out different ways to stay active and healthy.
So with that, what injuries are you seeing in your office now that you're reopened?
Well, it's kind of interesting, you know, during this time of year, football has the most injuries of any sport. And I could tell you the day football practice started almost every summer, usually in August, because we would see kids coming in, whether it be middle school, high school, even college, with the finger fractures, the ankle injuries, the knee injuries. And you can almost gauge that with the start of each sport, whether it be lacrosse or soccer or basketball, certainly. Although we haven't had the organized school sports, a lot of people have been doing the travel sports, travel soccer, travel lacrosse, and we're still seeing plenty of injuries. And people are just trying to be as active as they can. So we see some overuse injuries in people like me, the weekend warrior, the middle-aged, the getting up in years people that still want to stay active and fit, which is one reason at Letterman Quarterwitz Sports Medicine Orthopedic Center, we love treating, whether it be the high school athlete or the 85-year-old that wants to continue to be able to walk their 2-3 miles a day. It's so important to be able to treat everybody as their own type of athlete. And we have some really unique ways of keeping people fit, keeping them safe, getting them healing their sports injuries faster.
Dr. Ronald Letterman with us, an orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine doctor at the Letterman Quarterwitz Center for Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. Dr. Letterman, as high school athletes in contact sports like soccer, and then tomorrow high school football season begins with some games tonight and the remainder of them on Friday. Also, other athletes like in the high-profile situations such as those in professional football who have began their season as well. What are some things that you are advising to athletes at all levels that are returning to their organized contact sports with minimal preparation time, not a preseason or a longer off season like we normally see for high school and NFL football? What do you tell these athletes to help them prepare themselves for getting back into competition and prevent themselves from being in the spot where they could potentially get injured?
Well, it's a great question because the sports world, from the NBA to the NFL, all the way down to our kids' schooling and the organized sports at that level, has been turned on its head. And they haven't had the proper preparation, and they've shortened seasons because of it. But the best advice you can give someone is to prepare as best you can. A lot of warm up, a lot of stretching, obviously get as much conditioning in as you can. And we're going to see, especially in football, we're going to see some of these injuries that will sideline the high profile athletes. But we are seeing that. We're trying to get word out to the coaches and the athletic trainers. You almost have to take it on an individual basis. If a kid or an athlete is complaining of pain or discomfort, you have to listen to that. You might have to back off. You certainly need to consider modifying what they're doing. But it is a concern. It's a valid concern.
So how do we know when to shake it off or when to actually go see a doctor such as yourself?
If somebody tweaks their knee or their shoulder or their ankle, if they can get up and walk around and within a minute it feels pretty good, they're probably fine. But if it swells, if they take a certain move and it doesn't feel like the joint is stable or going to support them, that's worth giving a call and coming and getting evaluated. Very often we'll see an athlete a month after an injury. They didn't think much about it, and now the opportunity to really get them better quickly, that window has closed. When we see people with an acute injury, meaning it's happened same day, next day, and that's one great thing about Letterman Quarterwitz Orthopedics is we hold spots available for an acute injury. And like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be a high school or college athlete. It can be your grandparent who was going down to the mailbox, twisted the knee, or they wake up one morning and the knee is swollen and painful. We have slots for urgent add-on, whether it be a sports injury or, like I said, someone older that just is feeling new pain with new swelling. But get in, get evaluated. We have a lot of alternative medicine treatments for athletes, and I do keep using the word athlete, even if it's your grandparent, because we treat everyone with the sense of urgency to get them better. And when you think about it, of course you want to get an athlete better quickly so they can participate in practices and the next game. But I've always contested that it's more important to get that 70, 80, 90-year-old person better quickly, because that has more of an impact on their overall quality of life.
I will say I've been watching Hard Knocks on, I think it's HBO or Showtime, and it's been such an education about how they do treat the injuries for these high-level athletes. But as you said, everyone is an athlete, even if you're going out for the first time. And we are seeing so many people hitting the trails, hitting the gyms after they've been locked down for so long. If they do have an injury, how do they know when to come to you versus an urgent care? Do you need a referral to come to your facility first?
Typically you don't, but if you've injured yourself and your internist or primary care doctor is required to generate a referral, very often you can just call them. Almost all of the referring physicians in the area certainly know about us. We, Letterman Quarterwitz, we've been around for 20 plus years. I've been here in town for 26 years practicing orthopedics. But to answer your question, how do you know when to be seen? Several issues. If it's hurting a lot, that's telling you might have, done some damage. Damage could be a partial or a complete torn ligament. It could be swelling in the joint that might need to be more closely evaluated. Difficulty putting weight on your hip, knee, or ankle, that would be reason to be seen. Difficulty moving your hand, your fingers, your elbow, or shoulder, that's worth getting seen. And I believe it's better to be seen sooner than later. Some of the different things that we do are really unique. As a surgical group, as a surgical practice, we do everything we can to keep our patients out of the operating room. And once our patients know that, they're much less afraid or resistant to come in for evaluation. A lot of people are afraid if you go to an orthopedic surgeon to get treated, it means you're going to have surgery, and that's absolutely not the case. We have a class 4 cold laser in our on-site physical therapy, and we have a greater than 90% success rate in getting people better without surgery when we get them into our very skilled therapy department and laser. But now with regenerative medicine, we are getting people better and avoiding surgery with stem cell regenerative therapy, with PRP injections, and all of this can be done right there in the office with our ultrasound guidance. So many options. We try and make ourselves available to the entire community so they don't have to go to a hospital. Nobody really wants to go to a hospital now where there are some COVID patients. Urgent cares are great for after hours, but they often don't have the in-depth knowledge of the orthopedic injury. So if you can wait until 8 a.m. until 5 p.m., we typically can get people seen, and it's better to be seen sooner rather than keep putting it off.
Dr. Ronald Letterman, with this orthopedic surgeon, as you said, it can be a scary word. Can you give us a little bit more information, though, on the alternative medicines and why that works as well and keeping people out of the operating room?
Yes, and I can tell you that I've used it on myself, on my family members, because if I had my family member go to a general surgeon for whatever they were complaining of, I would certainly hope that that surgeon would look at every possible potential cure short of surgery. And that's just the way I practice, and that's the way Dr. Quarterwitz and Dr. O'Keefe and all the doctors at our office, Dr. Hyman, who specializes in neck and back. So we were really on the forefront of regenerative medicine. Stem cell therapy is typically, we have these vials of stem cell type tissues that are donated by the mother after a healthy newborn delivery. And the tissue comes from human umbilical cord, it comes from the amniotic tissue. And we have found that when we combine certain stem cell products and we use the proper indications, our patients are doing remarkably well. Some people that are coming to us that have been told by several other orthopedic surgeons they need joint replacements, they're getting rid of 90% of their pain, and they're enjoying a quality of life, and they're getting back out on a gorgeous day like today and taking their 2-3 mile walks. Before COVID, they were able to take their vacations and go hiking out west or up north. So the regenerative medicine has been huge. PRP is where you draw blood. You might draw blood from your arm. We spin it down in a fancy centrifuge that's in the office, and we're left with a few cc's of plasma-rich protein from your own blood. And the studies have shown that 2 or 3 of those injections into a damaged joint, an arthritic joint, into a damaged tendon can really help. I have a couple of remarkable cases where I had a college scholarship tennis player, and he's a big guy, plays tennis all the time, is fantastic, and he was having severe Achilles pain. Came to the office, a lot of swelling around the Achilles. We got an MRI that showed 50% partial tear of the tendon, 50%. Typically, we'd have to schedule him for surgery and clean out all the scar tissue and reconstruct that tendon, and that's a 12-month recovery. Instead, we injected his tendon with the stem cell product that we use, and 3 months later, the swelling was almost completely gone. His pain was completely gone. He was chomping at the bit to get back out there. I repeated his MRI, and I have side-by-side photos. The 3-month after stem cell injection, the MRI said that the Achilles appeared normal. The partial tear was gone. The scar tissue was gone. It was remarkable, and that's objective data. So we're seeing that every day with our patients and trying to get the word out, because people are doing so well with that, and it doesn't involve surgery.
Amazing advancements being made in medicine. Dr. Ronald Letterman, orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine doctor, Center for Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Thank you for being with us on the Oakland County Megacast and sharing that information and that insight. Don't be afraid to go to the doctor, to the orthopedic surgeon. You all are doing incredible work over there. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, we are going to check in on the world of restaurants.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonae Khaldun. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
Thank you for tuning into the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keith. We are going to wrap up the show today talking about the restaurant industry, one of the hardest hit industries during this crisis. But despite all of that, some are actually opening. Let's bring in Melody Baetans. She's the restaurant critic and reporter for the Detroit News. Thank you for being with us on the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, Ronnie. Thank you.
Boy, you've been busy. A lot to cover, huh?
Yes, there's a lot to cover, especially, considering a lot of restaurants closed in March when this happened. It didn't slow any reporting down. It was definitely a shock to the industry. And like you said, it's really turned it upside down. They've had to change the way they do things to survive. And there's been a lot of challenges that I've covered throughout this beat, throughout the summer and the spring. But like you said, there are some restaurants that are opening. We've seen, some already this month, and I counted at least 10 that are supposed to open before the end of the year in Metro Detroit, mostly in the city of Detroit. So I think that's a good sign that restaurateurs are going forward with their plans as much as they can. A lot of these openings were supposed to happen in the spring, but they're happening in the fall, but at least they are happening. So it is encouraging to see new places pop up.
So Melody, the ones that are opening, are they more higher end restaurants or like American fare?
We're seeing a good mix. If there's a theme, I would say it's seafood. There's at least 3 new seafood restaurants opening. There's Oak and Reel in Milwaukee Junction, which opened last week. And this is Chef Jared Gadbaugh is from New York. He's a Detroit native, but he's been doing some great things in New York City. He's won awards. He's worked at some of the best restaurants there, some high-end places. And what he's bringing is a seafood-forward Italian restaurant right there on East Grand Boulevard. And the way he's doing it, just for the debut, at least for the time being, he's doing a fixed price menu. So I believe it's $60 for 3 courses, $75 for 4 courses. So it is a little high-end. It is definitely kind of a special occasion. And for, there's no outdoor seating, which, I know that they would probably prefer to have, just because a lot of restaurants are doing well with outdoor seating right now. But it is all indoors, and I think there's a lot to look forward here. I know the chef's very excited about being in the area, and he also told me he is doing some carry out and some discounts for service industry and people in the neighborhood during the week. 2 other seafood places that are supposed to open next month. We're going to have Sloppy Crab, which is an offshoot of Sloppy Chops restaurant. That's supposed to open on Jefferson across from the Renaissance Center, where Briggs Detroit was. And before that, it was a Tom's Oyster Bar. And we're going to see another seafood restaurant open in Wyandotte downriver. It's called H2O Seafood. And that's going to be downtown Wyandotte on Biddle Street. That's also supposed to open next month.
Melody Baetans joining us. She is a restaurant and critic and reporter at the Detroit News with us today on the Oakland County Megacast. A lot of these new restaurants that are opening, despite the COVID-19 pandemic ongoing, despite the hit that restaurants have been consistently taking throughout the pandemic, what is inspiring these restaurateurs to open new places despite all that's going on in the industry with COVID-19?
Well, I think for a lot of chefs and restaurateurs, this is what they do. This is the industry that they love, and they want to see this through. Also, when you put wheels in motion, I know some of these places, they, like I said, they plan to open in the spring. The wheels are in motion. They want to do this, and they're going to try to see it through. And hopefully, in this time next year, the reduced dining capacity and the safety concerns and the staffing issues that they're seeing are in the rear view. And I've talked to a lot of restaurant owners, and they've not, longtime restaurant owners, and they've not seen anything like this. This time of year is kind of important. The fourth quarter is when you see a lot of bigger groups, a lot of holiday bookings for restaurants. People go out a lot with friends and family. So it kind of remains to be seen. The summer is kind of a lighter month unless you have a restaurant in a vacations area or destination space. So it's really about these next couple months that will make or break a lot of restaurants and see if they can continue. And I know a lot of them were trying to get open before the season started.
Yeah, because we know the industry recently launched a campaign to try to encourage and advocate for our lawmakers to ease the restrictions before the winter months. If that does not happen, what do you think is going to happen to Michigan's restaurant scene?
I think that they're going to continue to evolve the way they have been. I'm seeing, restaurants shift to carry-out models, whether that is offering groceries and pantry items to their customers, not just cooked meals they can bake at home. Any way to get to ring up sales and keep things going and keep people staffed and keep, the business afloat. They're just going to have to be flexible. I think we're going to see a lot of all-season or 3-season outdoor dining spaces. If you own a patio heater company right now, you're probably in in a good spot because the sales of those are going to go up. Last year I saw a lot of dining igloos, which were kind of outdoor domes, and they were for tables of one, and the server would come in, take the order, and come out. I think those might be popular even more so this year because it will allow diners a space to just eat with their group and not really be in the restaurant, but still be outside.
I do enjoy those igloos, but you wonder, because the restaurants are having to actually invest more money in making these changes at a time when their sales are down, which means their profit margins are down, and they also can't find employees. So do you have any percentage or any guesses as to how many restaurants could possibly close if this doesn't end soon?
I've read a couple different, numbers. When this first started, the national numbers were, national experts were saying that half of the restaurants were going to close. I think it depends on what area you're in. I worry about some downtown restaurants because people are not working downtown. Obviously there are people that live downtown, but we are not seeing the auto show. We weren't seeing the festivals. We weren't seeing, workers daily. So I worry more about those restaurants versus the ones that maybe in a neighborhood where people go, a couple times a week and support, even if it's just for carry out. It's going to be a good chunk. I think, like I said, as we get closer to the end of the year, I think we're going to see more places close, maybe because their lease is up or maybe because they tried that fourth quarter and it didn't work out. This year in general was hard for restaurants, even before the pandemic. In January and February, I think I wrote at least 4 or 5 articles about restaurants closing that was kind of surprising. Craftwork in West Village and Bistro 82 in Royal Oak, Gold Cash Gold, which was, got national attention when it first opened. They all closed even before the pandemic. So it's a hard business, and this just makes it harder. And I think that we'll see more places close before the end of the year, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was really surprised at Gold Cash Gold because they had such a following, but there were so many restaurants that are opening in that downtown area. It makes competition a little bit harder. Just about 2 more minutes left with you here. What insight or what do you want our viewers and listeners to know that maybe they don't know or haven't heard about when it comes to Michigan's restaurant industry?
Right now, I think people just need to be patient. If you are dining in restaurants, keep in mind your server is, they're putting their safety at risk to go to work. Everyone's wearing masks, which is great. I've seen a lot of great mask wearing, which is very comforting. But it's hard to offer, that high level of service when you're trying to go to the table as infrequently as possible for everyone's safety. So I recommend to diners, be gratuitous, tip well, and just be patient. Support, if you like a restaurant, see if they're open for carry out, support them that way. Think about what restaurant you would hate to lose and go out and support them.
Yeah, we are hearing, I know my niece worked at a restaurant over the summer and people are being very gracious with the tips during this time. Melody, if someone wants to follow you on social media, where can they find you? Because we have emerged in this region as the place to go for the restaurant scene. So it was booming prior to this, but if we want to follow you to find out all the latest restaurant news, how can we find you on social media?
The best place is on Twitter. I'm Melody Baetans, at Melody Baetans. It's Baetens. And you can read all my stories at DetroitNews.com/restaurants.
Thank you so much. Just about 30 seconds left. Anything that you want people to know about the restaurant industry? Can you break any news here for us?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head, but I'm sure news breaks every day, it seems. So follow on Twitter. I'm sure there'll be something this afternoon.
That is so true. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you.
So many great restaurants. We were becoming a mecca here in the greater Detroit area, becoming known as the food place to be. A lot of chefs opening up restaurants here, so bypassing places like Chicago and some of the bigger cities and coming to Detroit. And then this did hit, which is really having an impact on so many of the businesses, and not just with the the sales being down, profits being down, but also, Tyler, one of the big things, it's really, really hard for so many of these places to get employees during this time.
Yeah, they're struggling, and a lot of people aren't necessarily looking for jobs in those sectors. They're looking for something more along the lines of what they want to do with their career, or what they have been doing with their career. But these are jobs that are out there that are open for permanent and for temporary positions, and they're clamoring to get more people in to cover the slack.
So if you're out eating out, tip your servers well, be nice, be kind. That is going to wrap it up for the Thursday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Stay safe, stay healthy.